Converting your old running stock to run on DCC? Stick around and I'll show you how. Hi, I'm Jeff and welcome back to Flint Hills. Well, as we've all seen recently, the manufacturer's pricing which has been coming out has just shown our hobby has got more and more expensive, and it's starting to price a lot of people out of the market. And it's given me an idea that I've got quite a bit of old rolling stock which is just DC and doesn't come with any DCC ready capability. So I thought, okay, let's have a look at these and see if we can convert these to DCC and get them running again. So this is how I went about converting this Class 47.
So here's our Class 47 in its box. And as you can tell from the box, actually it is a Bachmann version of this Grand Farish model. So it's not made in Paul, it will be made in China. And on the bottom, there we go, it's actually Grand Farish made in China. Okay, so we know the model that we're looking for when it comes to spare parts. Now to open this, there's normally unclips either side with just your thumb. And it pulls away very easily. Now just checking that you can actually see the little ribs inside the cover, and they actually locate on locator on the side here, so you make sure that you have to put it back the right way around. So there's only one way this coach will fit onto the chassis, and the chassis is a split chassis. And then we can see the split chassis, and there's plenty of room in there for a decoder. And this is decoder we'll be fitting. It's the Zimmo, the MX616R, which is actually on a harness. It's quite a small decoder, but I do like the Zimmos, and it's got Railcom as well. So the first job I do with one of these split chassis is to remove the battery box stroke fuel box, and then I make a note of the bogie retaining clips and their position, and there's a hole either end and where it sits, and there's a close-up showing you how that sits in there. So that's what we use. Now, silly me, forgot to video the stripping down. So this is another split chassis that I've got, and so this is just to show you how simple it is to actually strip down one of these split chassis. Undo the two screws, obviously remove the battery box. With that undone, the chassis just splits in half. And your two bogies come out. You've got the two retaining clips for it, and then there's your motor. And that's all there is to these split chassis. So with that, now let's convert the split chassis for DCC. So here's our two halves of our split chassis. Now what we've got to do is to mill out the area where the motor contacts are, and I've just shaded those in white, so let's mill those out. So apologies for those who don't like the dentist, but I'll just get my little mini drill and just get in there and shape it out. Doesn't take long, it's very, very soft. I've just got a little milling bit in there and I can just cut that out. Then I can get the file and just shape the corners and square them up. So there's hardly anything taken out really, it's just where the motor contacts are. And there we go, nicely squared off. Now I've got to do the other half. So we're both halves done. It's a quick hoover, get rid of all the swarf. Then what we'll do now is we'll check the each half and make sure the motor fits and that motor contact is not touching, and as you can see it is not touching. So what I'll do now is I'll mark up where I've got to cut again just to run the wire through the chassis. Here I've marked the chassis in pen. You can see where I've just got to take a little bit out with the Dremel, and there we go, very small cut across there, doesn't take long to get out. As you can see now, there's just a little groove for a wire to sit in up to the top where the decoder fits. Now I could put the contact wires for the left and right in those holes, but what I like to do is just to drill a little hole, and what we'll do is we'll put a stud, and basically I'll put a screw in there and break the head off. So that's where they're going to go. So let's drill those holes. The holes themselves don't have to be that deep. They've just been deep enough that I can put the screw in. And I'm using these M2 x 10. There's 100 of them in this little bag here. And basically I screw these little screws into those holes, and they'll just tighten up and snap off. And it leaves me a stud to there we go, we have to screw this one in. Now apologies because my camera turned off just as it snapped off. So here's the studs, and I just need now to just file them down, flatten those off, and then they're ready for tinning, and I can put a wire onto each of them. So I've filed these back now, so they're now ready. So we're now ready to reassemble and put the decoder on. But before that, let's test the decoder, make sure it works. So here's the decoder I'm going to use. It is the Zimmo, and this is my little test unit we've got, and what we'll do is we'll put the Zimmo into that. So today, just to be different, I'm going to use Decoder Pro from JamRI. We'll load that onto the PC, and we'll switch it on, and then we'll actually install a new loco, and then we'll go for the read the decoder type, and basically it goes away and looks and reads the decoder and will tell me what the decoder is, and I can choose the model. And there we go, it's highlighted the 3 choices, and I know I've got the R version, so we'll click on that. So I want the decoder to be 4780. So in the roster we'll put the 4780. But for the address it's going to be a long address. Again, it'll be 4780, and I do want to be able to use this on a DC, so we'll write that, and that will write that into the decoder, and I'll save it onto the computer as well. Now we can open up the comprehensive programmer. This saves you having to remember all the CV values. so it makes it much easier to use. It's in English instead of just CV numbers. There are all the headings that you can use, and obviously because I chose a Zimmo decoder, it's given me the Zimmo menu. So on the motor, on the basic, sorry, it's telling me that it's 4780 and the extended address. It's using the 128 speed steps and it's DC enabled, so that's just what I want. Looking at the motor now, the acceleration rate is 2 and the acceleration is 1, so I want those to both be 0 because I use iTrain to do my acceleration and deacceleration. So I change them and then I'll click on write. It will write those changes straight to the decoder. And now if we look at the basic speed control, okay, so we've got V starts, that's the voltage for starting the actual loco, and what I've done is I've just told it to read what's on the decoder. The decoder's come back with 111. So the voltage high is what I want the top speed to be, and I know roughly 100 is about 70 miles an hour, so we'll put 50 in, which will make it 30 miles an hour for the mid, and to get things going we'll just put 10 in for now, and I can change these values. We'll write those now to the decoder and that's done. So I'll just check in now any analog controls I need to amend. Now DC's obviously enabled. Nothing else on there I need to set up apart from the Railcom, so we'll just check on that Railcom. And yep, Railcom is enabled for both broadcast and for the data, and that's good for me. So there it is plugged in. Now I can actually run the so we'll turn the lights on and I can actually see it's got the red light on, and if I change direction the white light comes on, so that then I can actually run the actual decoder up and down as well on the speed. Make sure that's all working fine before we install it. So now that I'm happy that's all working fine, we can go ahead and install that into the loco. So here we are now, going to reassemble the loco, and I'll put the plastic lugs in between the two. Get everything back out the box, I can find everything. Now I'm just going to put the sort of the separators, the insulators is the right term, between the two the halves of the split chassis. That's it, they're on. We'll take the motor. That sits in so easy. It's actually quite nice to do these. And then there's the bottom insulator, and also that has got the screw hole for the battery box stroke fuel box. Now these can be a little bit tricky to put in, so we put the prop shaft in. Sorry about the big head in the way there, but it's just difficult to see as well. It's quite fine, and it's just getting that prop shaft to be in the right place, and you sometimes just have to turn it a little bit to get it to go in. There we go, we're in. And now we get the retainers for the bogies. So remembering that picture that we took, tells me which way around they got to go and into which groove they sit. And with that, we'll just put the other side of the split chassis on. There we go. I'll just make sure that's in the right place and that one in the right place. And then we can put the screws in to hold it all together. I try not to over tighten these screws because it can break the insulators and they're very difficult to get hold of. Got one screw that seems to refuse to 4 faults, refuse entry. And there we go. That's the unit and that's the battery box to go back on. Right, let's wire it up. So here's our decoder. We're going to cut the plug off the end. Yes, it is 8, but don't worry about that because we're only going to be using the 4 wires. So I fan out the wires. I just want the red, the black, the orange and the grey. There we go. And we'll strip those. There they are stripped, and I put a little bit of flux on each one. And then with my soldering iron, I'll just put a little bit of solder on the soldering iron, touch the wires, and it runs. And that's it, all tinned, lovely. Now I can cut those to length. Easy as that. Right, what I do is just ensure I get this right. That's the direction of travel to start with. So I'll mark up, this is the right hand side and this is the left hand side, and as long as everything goes that way, I know I'm getting my decoder wires in the correct way. So here I'm just going to tin the 2 studs, which was the screws which I put in and broke off. And I'm just putting a little bit on the side of the motor, and again another little bit of flux on the side there. And it just helps to let that tin go. So we can get the soldering iron now, a little bit of solder, and I just wipe them across. That's it. And we've got just a small blob of solder on the top of them studs. I'll just do to the side. I won't actually do the middle where the spring is. And it's just a little bit. Don't need a lot. Don't need great big blobs of everything. You can see I didn't even add any more solder to that. So I'll put the red wire to the right. And we'll put the black wire to the left. So these are the pickups of the split chassis. These are close up so you can just see how they're soldered on. Now I don't believe there's a golden rule for which wire you put onto between the orange and the grey, which side it goes. Obviously in DCC you can reverse that motor anyway, but I tend to put the orange onto the same side as the red, be it the right side. So there's the orange on, and I'll just flick that over now, and we'll connect up the grey. Bit more tricky this one because I've got to do it left-handed. So there we go, and that's the left-hand one in. So all we've got to do now is just tidy that up. But first off, let's test it and see if she works. So here she is, back on the DC only rolling road, and she's working fine, no problems at all. So with it all tested, I can now tidy up the wires with some capstan tape, and there we go. So it just holds all the wires down nice and neat and flat. Then the loco body fits on the tree, no problems at all. Again, I'll just put it back on the DC, just give that a little run, and then she's ready for Flint Hills and DCC. Well, I hope you found this video informative and very useful. It certainly meant that I'm going to get a lot of my old DC only locos out and start to convert them and then run them on DCC. So thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you again on the next video. And I'll just leave you with a couple of running shots of this Class 47 and hauling a rake of Mark IIIs. Take care, bye for now.